Hello everybody, it's me Hattie and I am back with a brand new speed build, and this time I'm going to be building a Greek styled home. So this house is for Kaleidow. She is doing a new series on her channel which is a revisitation of an old series that she did called Oh My Goddess, and she's going to be recreating the whole of the bluffs in Winterberg to look like Greek inspired houses, and they are going to look absolutely amazing. She recently did a 64 by 64 and it looks phenomenal, so I'm going to leave the links below for that if you want to go and check it out. But she asked if I'd be up for building a house for it, and I said of course I would, because the idea sounds amazing and I can't wait for the series. So I'm pretty excited. But this house, I'm not sure whether it will be one of the main ones or whether it will just be sitting in the background. I'm not sure, but I'm happy either way. It was a really fun build to do, and I had a lot of ideas for it, and it's something that I haven't done for a while. I tend to not do really pale houses, but for this one it's very white. It's got a lot of ancient features. I put a lot of stone around it as well, so you'll see that, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. But at this point I was making the balcony area. I wanted to have something that we don't just have necessarily in The Sims 4, and I wanted to make it up a bit. So I made my own balcony area, which I really love. I did want to put some plants there, but I didn't in the end because I really liked the fact that it looked pretty special without that. So you'll see that probably during the end. But at this point I was putting in the roofing. I tried to stick with my own style of the roofing, even though I know that it is a Greek build, and a lot of the Greek inspired houses that I saw online didn't even have roofing, but I really wanted to keep with my style and make it look like a home which I've built. So I did put in a little bit of roofing, but not as much as I would have usually. So it's a little bit hidden, I guess, because it's a bit flattened. It's a bit more flatter than I'd usually build it, and it was a really fun thing to do. But anyway, this was when I was putting the final bits in for the roofing. I like to layer my roofing. I like to have a lot of different pieces going on inside it because I just think it gives a really nice effect. And also I am going to be doing a tutorial in the next couple of weeks on my roofing because I've been getting a lot of requests to do that as well. So I will be doing that at some point. That will be coming up on my channel. But I was putting some pillars in. I thought that the circular ones went really well with this build. Same with the paneling. I thought that that beautiful frieze around the middle looked really nice as well. I think it's called a frieze. I still haven't looked that word up. I need to do it. But anyway, I was just making it look really pale, and I wanted to give it a really angelic feel. So it's very white by the end. It wasn't so white in the middle because this was really the part where I was deciding whether I put some brown in, and I decided against it towards the end, so you'll see that. But it's been a while since I've been to Greece. I went there when I was really young, probably about 11 or 12, and I only went there for half a day, which is incredible. But what happened was I went on a cruise and we only stopped there for I think maybe 9 till 5 or something ridiculous like that. So I didn't get to see it for that long, and also it was so early in the morning. It was about 6 a.m. I had to get up with my sister, my mum, my dad, and we all went out. And I didn't really get a chance to explore Greece. I think that I would have, being a little bit older, I would have had to really go out and explore areas. But being so young, I always had to go everywhere with my sister. So we didn't really get a chance to explore. We would always have to explore together as well. And being quite fiery and bossy people when we were younger, I mean, I'm not so bossy now, but when I was younger, I was such a madam. But anyway, so my sister and I would really spend a lot of our time arguing about where we were going to go next, as opposed to actually exploring and looking around. So I guess we didn't get a lot done in Greece, but I think that if I went back now, it would be completely different. And of course we get on really well now. It was just when we were younger, we didn't get on that well. But it was very funny looking back, looking at the silly arguments that we used to have. It's funny because we found out when we were older that maybe we're just so similar that that's why we didn't get on when we were younger. I think that's probably a issue that a lot of siblings have, especially at that age of 12 and 15, because she's 3 years older than me. It was just a very difficult time. But anyway, going back to the build, at this point I was deciding whether to put some brown in, as you can see, but I did change it, as I think I spoke about before, but I'm not sure. I mean, I speak about so much during my builds, it's insane. But it was looking too Italian for me at this point. I mean, it probably doesn't even look that Italian, but to me, it really did. And I think that's probably my time in Italy just kind of coming back to me with all these brown shutters going on, and I was thinking to myself, no, I don't want to do this. I want to make it look really pale and angelic, and that's what I decided. So I was putting the blue roofing back. I also tried to use some blue archways, which you'll see by now as well. They're really, really small archways in at the front, but I really like them. And I think that when the interior's inside this build, it's gonna look really, really special from a playable point of view, because you could have so many screenshots of the Sims looking out of those archways and really using them, and they really will brighten up a room, like whether it's the lounge or the kitchen that they'll fall into. I think it will look really nice either way, so I'm pretty happy with that. But anyway, I was adjusting the roofing slightly. I was trying to figure out why I didn't like it at this point, and I fixed it. I think I did anyway. Yeah, I fixed it, and I was pretty happy with the roofing. I quite like the pointy bit, but I think I did change it. Even so, maybe more to the end, but I was trying to decide what I'd have at the front there, just above the doorway. I was trying to not think too much into it though, because I was also thinking that I haven't added the ivy or the landscaping yet, so it's not going to look as special as it will by the end anyway, because sometimes when I don't like a build, I often take a step back and I think, well, hang on, it's got no ivy and it's got no landscaping on yet, so give it a chance. And then when I start to add those things, I start to change my mind about it sometimes, and that's what really happened with this build. So I was trying not to think too deeply into it, and I was also trying out the different windows at the front there. I was also adding an overhang of the window at the front, because I really like that for this build. I think that it looks a little bit more Grecian. I don't know whether that's what it's called, but I think that it looks pretty special like that, and I was just having some experiments going on here. But anyway, so I was adding some windows around the back and going back to the sides and things. I also did change all the windows at the back as well. So I just had a recolor by the end of the build. So don't get too attached to the brown, because it definitely doesn't stay here. It changes quite a lot as well. But I was putting a door at the back, and I was trying to think about the garden, because I knew that the garden wasn't going to be particularly big. But what I really like about this area is the fact that your Sims can actually go elsewhere, and you don't have to have loading screens to go and explore this whole island. I mean, they could easily go and sit on the beach and they could have some fun times. I don't know what you can do on the beach, but you can chat, you can do things like that, and that's what I was thinking. So the garden isn't really necessary for this particular build. I thought I'd focus on the interior a lot anyway, and I'll probably have an indoor hot tub, I think, somewhere in this build. I really want that for this house, so I'll probably be having that. But anyway, I was adding in the landscaping, which of course is my favourite bit to do. So I was putting some ivy in. I wanted to make it look special and old and ancient, and I think the best way to do that for a Greek build, personally, is to put in a lot of landscaping like ivy, because ivy takes such a long time to grow. I used to have ivy in an old house which I lived in, and it took so long to grow. I think it took about 10 years for it even to start growing. It was a very, very long process. But I love ivy, I love landscaping. I don't actually enjoy gardening in real life, which is a little bit strange. I can't stand it, to be quite honest. I am very, very afraid of insects and bugs and things like that. In fact, one of my biggest fears is spiders, and we have a lot of spiders over here in Germany. Now, I am not comparing those to Australian spiders, because they look petrifying, and spiders are probably my biggest fear out of everything. And in fact, when I first went to Germany, because I went to Germany on a German exchange, strangely, when I was about 13 or 14, and now I live there. But what happened was they made me do this gardening in the countryside, and I had to go there for about 8 hours a day. It was crazy. It was a really, really strange trip though, where we had to work on a farm, and it had to be full time, and it was difficult. It was labour. And there were these spiders everywhere, and I can just remember like stamping my feet the whole time, because I was wearing open toe shoes, and it was just the worst thing ever. There were these humongous spiders. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. But if I have a spider in the house, I will not be able to go in that room again. I'll have to close the room off, and that will be a room which I won't be using for a couple of days at least, because I can't stand them. But anyway, this was when I was finishing off the landscaping. I was just putting the final little bushes to the back. I really enjoyed using pink for this house, because I thought, being a romantic colour, being a colour which is very dear to my heart, pink's one of my favourite colours, I thought that it would really suit this build. I saw a lot of pink plants when I was looking at Greek architecture as well, so I thought it would fit in quite nicely. I was also putting some ancient stoning around places at the front, because I really like the fact that it looks like a fallen pillar somewhere, and I think I really think that if I was to create a mansion in this Greek style, which I might do at some point, I'm not sure if it will be soon, but at some point I'll have a go. But it would be like a really big temple, and it would have a lot of those fallen stones about, and I really like that style, I really do. So I was thinking a lot about that, and I was just adding some more plants around it because I wanted the plants to really flow through the rocks. I wanted them to look like they'd been there for a really long time, and there's been some weeds that have gone in between them and stuff, because I like that. Strangely, I really like weeds sometimes. In fact, one of my favourite weeds or flowers is foxglove, and that is a pink, beautiful weed. And I remember when my mum asked me what my favourite plant was, and I said foxglove, and she said foxglove, but that's really dangerous. So, I mean, I think that it looks nice, and I think that that sometimes looks really beautiful with an area like this, especially for an ancient sort of area or an ancient house, because it looks more realistic to have all these plants really combined with the stonage, and I like it, so that's what I did. I also added a little stream just around the front of the house because I thought with the water being so close, it would look a little bit more realistic if there was some water up here as well. So I put that there, even though the rose petals aren't that realistic, and they definitely wouldn't look like that in a natural place, I don't think, anyway, without it being tampered with. But I thought it looked really nice either way, and I left it like that. This was the garden area. The garden area I didn't want being that big because I didn't really think that it would be. I thought this would be a nice area to have a few potted plants. And I've done big gardens for such a long time now, so I thought it would be quite a nice change to do a small garden with not much detail gone into it at the back, quite small, quite cozy. And I thought with just a simple table and stuff that would be okay. But this is when I was spraying the pathway in and I was putting some more plants around this area. I wanted to follow this whole pink theme all the way through the back garden as well, so I did do that. This was a table I was talking about. Couldn't decide whether to have the chairs really casual and not sitting at the table, but in the end I decided to do that. I put a children's climbing frame there. I put some plant pots so you can grow some plants and things, or trees or food, whatever you wanted to put there, you could do it. And I put some stonage just around the plants. I put more than usual because I thought that the stones looked really nice. And I did actually finish it all the way off around the side as well. At this point I was trying to check whether I should change the colour. I was putting some more of those stones around the front as well, the really big decorations. I was putting those around, and I was just perfecting the ivy. I was making the ivy look a little bit better and make it look a little bit more bold. So I did that in the end as well, and this was a bit when I was adding some more trees, trying to make it fit in with the bluffs a bit more because there's so many trees here. So I was doing that. I was putting some chimneys in because I think that the blue ones look really nice and it goes well with this house as well. But I changed the window at the front. I put an archway there and I put a window behind it because I really like that idea. I did it in one of my older builds, Christmas home, and I thought that it looked quite nice. So I did it for this build as well. But I was putting some lights around. I thought lights were very important for this house, especially as it is on a remote island, and I thought with it being like this, it would look really special if I took some screenshots of a really distant view of it on the island. It would look really nice. So I did that, put some lights around, making sure that they all looked nice, and I left that in. Sometimes I don't always leave the light bit in, and you might not see that on my builds, but I'm gonna say 99% of the time I always light up my houses. It's just sometimes I forget to leave that bit in, and sometimes it's a little bit tedious, so I leave it out. But this is when I was having a complete recolor of the build. I was changing all these windows to blue and white. I think it looks a lot better like this, and it looks a lot more Grecian than it would being a brown build. But anyway, that is the build. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all for part 2. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.